Oh, yeah, that'd be great. Thanks.
Oh, well, wait. It's still brewing. We were just slammed this morning.
Oh, no problem.
I'm so sorry that you have to wait. What is it that you're working on? Are you writing a novel?
No, this is my Christmas shopping list. I'm trying to figure out who I still have to shop for. You know, I was out to the mall for 3 hours yesterday, and like 2 hours of that was like waiting in line. You know, I'm just trying to get my Christmas shopping done early this year so I can avoid that dreadful wait at the post office. You know, waiting seems like that's all we do anymore this time of year is wait. No offense.
Oh, none taken. I know all about waiting. I was supposed to get off work an hour ago. Louise called in, her car won't start. So now her husband's going over with his jumper cables. I'm going to get it started, I hope. Well, I can guarantee, I was here an hour, and I worked all night last night. And I was hoping to get off work an hour earlier because I wanted to get some rest before I go into my other job. I guarantee it's going to be another hour before they get here.
Well, if they're coming from the west, you're going to have to wait. Granada is a mess. You know, people are crazy out there. Doesn't anybody look at the traffic lights anymore? I swear, everybody's on their cell phone. You know, there ought to be a law.
I think there is. But I think you're right when you said, all you do this time of year is to wait. So why don't we see what we can get you for breakfast? What would you like?
Some eggs and bacon.
Oh, sorry. You have to wait. We're out of bacon.
Okay, more to come in the months ahead from our Not Ready for Primetime Players kind of thing. I may read a little bit of this today just because it's raw for me. Last week, one of the things I said, faith's a struggle for me. And boy, some of y'all struggle with that when your preacher says it's hard to have faith. And it is for me. But we're going to talk about today. We'll be spending more time in Noel's Diner over this holiday season as we get going with all of this. This theme this Christmas is looking at the messy side of Christmas. And as you can see today, we're talking about waiting. And I hate waiting. Y'all know there's no way I would be patient with Nell, our waitress. If I ask you if I'm ready to pay for the check and you're not there, I'm going to say things and I'm going to do things so I struggle with waiting. And on Monday when I began working on this sermon, I was waiting for a tow truck. Because my son had issues with his car. Well, actually, he didn't have issues with his car. My son has issues, and his car suffered because of it. Over the holiday weekend, and that meant Dad got to deal with the issue. So Monday, I was waiting for the tow truck, and what AAA said is, we will be there sometime in the next 60 to 90 minutes. I don't understand. That makes it sound better than an hour and a half. So I figured, why not just wait and write a sermon on waiting while I'm waiting. Which I did, and I hate waiting. But this is the season of waiting. We wait for everything right now with lines. Every store is packed, and you wait in lines. Every restaurant is crowded, and you have to wait there, and the traffic picks up. It's wait. And then there's the whole deal of wait until Christmas. Just wait till Christmas. Just wait till Christmas. And in the business world, it's all about, well, just wait till the new year, and we'll begin the project then. Just wait till the new year. I'm like, I don't wait well. And the season of Advent is all about waiting. It's about waiting for Christ's birth. We're looking forward to Christ's return, that Christ is going to, that Christ's birth, and like, yay, baby Jesus. But it's also this season that we're waiting for Christ to come back. That's kind of the part we forget. We forget that this season of Advent is not just looking forward to Christ's birth, but it's also looking forward to Christ's return. Christ promised to return. Christ promised to come back. He said, I'm going to come back and I'm going to make everything right, that Christ's kingdom is going to come, that the world's going to be at peace and everything's going to be wonderful. Like, yes! It's been 2,000 years, dude. I mean, you thought the service at the diner was slow. We've been waiting 2,000 years for Jesus to show up. We've been waiting for 2,000 years for him to come back and fix this mess that we have made. And I'm just, come on, Lord, how long? But really, the trouble I have with waiting, not just at the diner, but really what I struggle with is when you wait and you wait and you pray for something. And you pray 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 and you continue to pray for something and still nothing. I had my wife bring in one of my prayer journals. These are a blessing and a curse in some ways. These are a blessing of prayer journals. I think I have like 28 of these now, where I write. And I mean, actually, she just grabbed one for me off the top of the book, and this is part of last year's journal. Actually, I started it December 5th, 2016, is the opening thing. Interesting, we're having a choir cantata. I have issues with some church attendance and things like that, and all kind of, I can look back over my journals and see all the things. Actually, there's something I'm really struggling with right now. I'm really wrestling with God with. I'm like, I need some answers. I need you to do something. I've been kind of looking back over my journals and realized for over 20 years, 20 years I've been praying for this. 20 years I've been writing this out. 20 years I've been asking for God. I'm like, seriously, how long do I have to wait? When are you going to do something? I call out to you, and God, I haven't heard from you. What are you going to do on that? And I realized that the journey of faith is about waiting. It's about waiting. We cry out to God and we wait. That's all the stories in the Bible. Abraham, God shows up to Abraham and says, I'm going to make of you a great nation. And he waited. Shows up to Jacob, I'm going to bless you. I'm going to give you this land. It's a promised land. And he waited. The children of Israel, the people of Israel, were enslaved to Egypt for 400 years. For 400 years, that's 10 generations, they prayed and they prayed for God to send them a deliverer. And we know God does. But what if you're in generation number 6 or generation number 7, and you wake up every day of your life, God, send us a deliverer. God, hear my cry. God, I'm tired of making these bricks out of straw and mortar. Help me. Pray to him. And you wait. And then they get out. And they wander in the desert for 40 years. They wander around in the desert for 40 years. They weren't saying how long then. They were just saying, are we there yet? Are we there yet? Right? How long, O Lord? And then they get and they settle the promised land. And then a few years later, they spend 70 years in exile. They're taken out of the land and go to Babylon. And the psalm says this, by the rivers of Babylon, we sat down and we wept. And we remembered Zion. And they cried out, God, help. And when they get back to Israel, they get back to that promised land, they've been promised a Messiah. Isaiah promised it, and it's been 700 years. After they get back from exile, it's still another 500 years. For 500 years, God, send us a deliverer. God, send us a Messiah. God, do something. And then Jesus shows up 500 years later. There's a theme on the journey of faith. How long? How long, O Lord? I talked last week that we press on towards the goal that Christ has for us. How long? How long do we press on towards that goal? Sometimes all you can do is hold on. That's all you can do. But you keep taking that next step. You keep pressing on, but we cry out, how long? Is there something you're crying out about? Is there a prayer you've been praying? Is there a promise you've been clinging to? Is there a moment? Is there something within you like, God, help? God, how long? God, I need. Maybe it's a family issue or a friend issue, a financial issue, a health issue, something you have been, a child issue, a grandchild issue, a spouse. How long, oh Lord, do I got to do? What? You got something you've been praying for years? God, help. If you got that, you're like a lot of us. A bunch of people in this room feel that way. And you're not alone. There are a lot of saints who have gone before us that have prayed, how long, O Lord? And the Bible, man, the Bible is full of how long, O Lord? One of them I didn't know about. I didn't know about it until this week. I was doing a little research. I was doing a little research thinking about how long, oh Lord? And I discovered one in Habakkuk. Y'all ever read Habakkuk? Also known as Habakkuk. We don't know how to say his name. Do y'all know where Habakkuk is? Can you find Habakkuk in the Bible? He's one of the minor prophets. When you read the Old Testament, there's a group of prophets. There's Isaiah, there's Jeremiah, there's Daniel, there's Ezekiel. And then we say there's the book of the 12. Forget memorizing the rest of them. It's just Daniel, Jeremiah, Ezekiel, or Isaiah, Jeremiah, Daniel, Ezekiel, in the book of the 12. Habakkuk's one of the 12. He's actually right between Nahum and Zephaniah, of course. You know that. I knew that already. He's just kind of slid in there, right? Actually, in my phone or on my Bible app that I have on my iPad, he's not even spelled out. When you list through the list, it's just H-A-B, period, right? That's what we think about him. Now, Habakkuk, though, he was a prophet who lived in Judah in the late 7th century, early 6th century BC. I mean, we're talking over 2,000, about 2,000 years ago, 3,000 years ago almost. And in the time period he lived, this is what the scholars say. So this proves the Bible's totally irrelevant to today's world, because this is what is happening, not in our country, but what was happening in Judah in the early 6th century BC. Their leadership was corrupt. Their politicians and their kings were seeking their own glory and their own thing. There was an issue with wealth distribution, that the rich were getting richer and the poor were getting poorer. My favorite part, they had a tax problem. Not that the Bible means anything to today's world, but there was a tax issue as to who's going to pay for this and who's not going to pay for this. There was an international chaos. There were new powers rising up. There were old powers falling away. Alliances were breaking apart. Friendships of nations were falling apart. There was violence. There was injustice. Not that we understand any of that kind of stuff today. But that's the world in where Habakkuk resides. And in his chapter, in chapter 1 of his book, the first verse is just saying, hey, my name's Habakkuk and God has called me. And this is the second verse. This is the first thing out of Habakkuk's mouth. How long, Lord, must I call for help? But you do not listen. Or I cry out to you, violence, and you do not save. The Message version, a more modern paraphrase, says it this way. God, how long do I have to cry out for help before you listen? How many times do I have to yell, help, murder, police, before you come to the rescue? How long? Is there something you've been waiting on, praying that prayer? How long, oh Lord? How long before you come? Apparently, Habakkuk had been praying this prayer long before we get this in the story. Apparently, Habakkuk had been wrestling with and struggling with, God, you need to act. God, you need to intervene. God, you need to do something. Things aren't right. Fix it. But either God hadn't heard him or God had heard him and just refused to do anything. And finally, out of deep frustration and confusion, Habakkuk calls out, God, how long are you even going to listen to me? There ain't nothing worse than calling out for help and nobody coming. It's hard enough just to ask for help. But when you ask for help and nobody shows up, and when you call out to God to do something, God help, and God doesn't respond, it's dark. And when you read the book of Habakkuk, what you're going to discover is Habakkuk isn't praying for himself. Habakkuk's not lifting up his own issues. He's not saying, make me a great prophet like Isaiah was. He's not even asking God to make him like his contemporary Jeremiah. He's not praying for wealth or health or anything like that. He is praying for other people, which is a pretty noble cause. He is praying for other people. He's like, God, they need justice. They are suffering unjustly. Help them. As I was reading that, though, I was like, man, is any suffering just? So God, they're suffering unjustly. Help them. Do something, God. Aren't you going to do that? It's like there's this inner dialogue going on between Habakkuk and God we get to listen to. God, if you're good, why don't you do something? And if you're just, how can you let this injustice go on? Or injustice go on, Lord? What are we going to do? And that, I get that. How long, oh Lord? God, please. help. Do something. Fix this. Right this wrong. Solve this problem. Heal this hurt. Restore this relationship. God, act like God and be somebody. I need you. I can't wait anymore. Don't you see how tired and how weary I am at carrying this load? How long, O Lord? And actually, God answers Habakkuk in chapter 2. Shows up and answers the question, but God answered it not in the way Habakkuk wanted. He answers it not in the way that Habakkuk, sometimes that happens. We pray. It's sort of like going to that diner. I'm going to tell you something. I'm in a diner and I'm waiting forever, and they say they ain't got no bacon. People. Even worse if she just said, we don't have any bacon. We got some of that tofurkey bacon, How worse does it get when you pray and what the answer is not what you want to hear? And God shows up and says, all right, Habakkuk, I hear you. Now, understand, I'm paraphrasing chapters 2 and 3 for you in this moment. But God begins to respond back to Habakkuk. And I just want to confess, I always hear God's voice a lot of times begins to sound like my dad and my granddad mushed together in my head. So you just need to know that in my own head. And God has a little bit of a southern drawl when God speaks to me because I understand he's from southern Galilee, so it works out well for me. But God's response to Habakkuk is like, boy, I'm at work. Don't you question me. You can't see it. You don't realize it. But I'm at work. Y'all been praying for justice. Justice is coming. It's going to come by the troops of Babylon. They're going to come in and they're going to restore things, but you ain't going to like it. Judah's been praying for justice. Judah's been praying for things to be made right, and what Judah's been doing is taking from the poor and giving it to the rich. Judah's been more concerned about herself than anybody else. Judah makes sure Judah's not paying any attention to me. She's all about what she wants. There's the language going on. And I'm going to restore justice. Judah cries out for justice, but she's been unjust. It's coming. Not what Habakkuk wants to hear. But to Habakkuk's credit, he stays in the conversation with God. He has this conversation. He continues the conversation with God. And it's almost like Habakkuk goes, okay, I'm going to watch and see. I'm going to be watching. You said you're coming. You said you're going to do something. I believe you're going to do that. I'm going to watch and see it. What I loved about Habakkuk, he trusts God is at work, even if he can't see it. He believes God is moving, even though he has no clue about it. And this is what I wrote it down. I want to make sure I read it this way right for y'all. Habakkuk trusts God is at work, even if he can't see it. He trusts God and commits himself to waiting on God. This is hard for me. Habakkuk assumes a posture of waiting with a confident trust in God. Confident trust in God is faith. To be patient and wait is faith. Faith is in the waiting, being patient, knowing that God is at work, even if I can't see God at work, even if I don't know God is at work, even if I can't explain what God is doing, I'm trusting God is at work. Here's what bothers me. I knew that tow truck was going to show up on Monday morning. I called AAA and they told me 60 to 90 minutes that thing's going to be there. And I knew it would, even though the minutes kept ticking away. Even when we hit 60 minutes and we just kept on going, I knew that tow truck was going to show up. How come I can trust a tow truck's going to show up to pick up my car, but I don't trust that God, the creator of the heavens and the universe, who shaped and formed me together in my mama's womb, is going to work for me? How long, oh Lord? How come I know this afternoon I'm going to get a package from Amazon? I ordered something on Wednesday. It's going to show up today. They told me it was. I know they're going to show up and be there. How come I can trust Amazon and their drone service or whatever to get me my package and know it's going to be here, but I don't trust that God, the creator of the universe, is going to work to make things right? And my first response, my childlike response is, well, that's because Amazon's always shown up on time. Amazon's always been there. And that tow truck, every time I call AAA, and with my children, we call AAA a lot, every time I call AAA, shows up. Blessing and a curse. God's always shown up. All my praying, maybe not in the way I wanted him to. Maybe not what I'd hoped for. I can look back. God's always shown up and moved, even when I thought nothing was happening. Waiting on God is faith. It is a knowing that though it is dark, man, light is coming. It is a belief that though I can't see, though I don't know, though I don't understand, God is moving. Faith is a knowing that God is here. So we wait. How long, O Lord? I don't know. But I trust God does. And I trust though I can't see, God's working. This confident trust in God, this faith in God, doesn't mean we just sit back and not do anything. It doesn't mean we sit back and just let injustice happen. There's a confidence trust. There's a faith that we wait and we see. I don't know what God is doing, but I know that God is at work. And so I will take the next step on my journey of faith. See, it's not a sit back, wait and see, okay, God, you do something. But it's, God, I'm going to wait and see. And while I'm waiting and seeing, while I know that you're coming, while I know that you're going to restore things, when I know you're going to make things right, I'm going to step. Because though it's dark and I cannot see, I know you're there. Because your love and your grace always has been. And so I'm going to do what I can, make things right. Take that next step. God's love and God's grace has been with me, though I can't see. What I couldn't see either was Habakkuk's in the New Testament, in Romans. Paul quotes him in Romans. And in Romans chapter 1, Paul says this, Romans 1:17, in the gospel, the righteousness of God is revealed. Righteousness, God making things right, God's justice being restored. A righteousness that is by faith from first to last, just as it is written. This is Habakkuk right here. Just as it is written, the righteous will live by faith. You know, faith, that confident trust in God that though I can't see, though I don't know, I'm going to take a step. I'm going to do what I need to do. In this chapter, Paul's been saying, look, Jesus Christ, I am not ashamed of the gospel of Jesus Christ. He is coming. He is here. He is going to make everything new. He's going to make everything right. He's going to restore everything. I ain't ashamed of that. God is going to make the world right through Jesus. God's going to make us right through Jesus. And the righteous, the just, they'll live by faith. Actually, this is what Habakkuk says. Habakkuk says, I'll stand my watch and station myself on the ramparts. Boy's getting ready to do some battle work right there. Things ain't right. I'm going to make them right. I'll do what I can. And I will look to see what God will say to me and what answer I'm to give to this complaint. Then the Lord replied, write down the revelation. Some translations read, write down the vision. And make it plain on tablets that a herald may run with it. For the revelation or the vision awaits at an appointed time. It speaks of the end and will not prove false. Though it will linger, wait for it. It will certainly come and will not delay. See, the enemy is puffed up. His desires are not upright. But, man, do I love the but. But the righteous person will live by his faithfulness. See, Habakkuk's letting us in on something. The vision. God's kingdom will come. God's will be done. It's going to happen. We know that. And there's a gap, though. Here's God's kingdom. God's kingdom has come. It's here, and we can live in it, but this is where we are. There's this gap. We kind of live in this in-between time here. Knowing that God's kingdom is going to come, God's will is going to be done, and that The righteous, the faithful live not like the world around us and the injustice of the world around us, but we live in the justice of God's kingdom. And we begin to act that way now. And we begin to build up this way because we know that God's going to show up and this is what it's going to be. So we're going to work to get there. So when God shows up, we're like, we're ready, baby. Here we are. And it's good. We live in this tension here. It's dark, Lord. I cannot see. I call out to you and you do not answer. How long will I wait? But though I cannot see, I know the light is coming. So I will step by faith. I will wait upon the Lord, because those who wait upon the Lord, they're going to renew their strength. As I was reading Habakkuk, I realized Habakkuk had to pray Psalm 13 a lot. He would have known it. And I love Psalm 13. If you've never read it, it starts off with a bunch of how longs. I mean, God got some stuff going on. But it ends. Flip to the end for me real quick, Trudy. Or Susan. But it ends with that but. Like I said, I love the but. Because the but changes everything. You got all that stuff before God, 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 where are you, what are you? But I've trusted. My heart's going to rejoice. I'll sing. God's been good to me. My homework for you. What's that thing you're waiting on? What's that thing you've been praying for years? Until Christmas. I want you every day. I want you every day to go to God and say, God, here it is. I write mine out. You can, if I were to let you read my journals, and no one's going to read my journals, they will be burned upon my death. If you were to read them, you begin to see some things over and over again. I'm going to read that out. And then I want you to pray Psalm 13. I want you to write out, pray out loud, say it out loud. God, this is it. Whatever it is, whatever that struggle is. And then Psalm 13. I messed up Thursday night. We had the early weekend worship Thursday night. It's making the experiment to see if we can get better on Sunday. And what I told her is I wanted everybody to pray this prayer with me, Psalm 13. Put it back up there for me, Trudy. And everybody read it with me. You know what we did? We did the Sunday school version. How long, O Lord, will you forget me? Forever? How long will you hide your face from me? It was very polite, it was very nice, and it wasn't faith at all. This ain't a prayer to pray straight, no emotion. It's a prayer with emotion, and I'm gonna pray it like I'm gonna pray. I don't know how you pray it. Some of you may have remorse and emotion in it. I find when I am frustrated, when God isn't answering me, when anybody's in, I get, and it comes out. So the prayer for me reads like this. I list out my issue. Now, how long are you going to forget me, God? Forever? Do you not care? How long, God? How long will you hide your face from me? How long will I be left to my own whisk? Because Lord knows that ain't going to work for me. What are you going to do? How long will this agony? That's a line right there. How long will this agony fill my heart? Every day. How long will my enemy, or maybe put in a name there, or an issue? How long will this addiction? How long will my divorce? How long will keep wearing me down? Look at me. Answer me, God. Restore sight to my eyes. I can't see. It's dark. Otherwise, you just might as well let me die. And let them say they won. Because we know everybody's going to rejoice over my falling down. But I have trusted in your faithful love, God. I can look back over the years and know you have held me in the palm of your hand. My heart will rejoice in your salvation. I will sing. I'm going to tell you something. Lord, I am prone to wander. I am prone to leave the God I love. Here's my heart, Lord. Take and seal it. Seal it for thy courts above. You've been good to me. Let's pray. How long, O Lord? How long do we got to call out? There's injustice in the land. Things ain't right. There's injustice in my heart. Things ain't right. I know you're going to make all things new. I know you're at work. I know you love me. It's dark, Lord, and I can't see. Let there be a light shining. And even in the darkness, give me courage to take a step. A step in the right direction to you. Because I have waited, Lord, and you have heard my cry. And you have pulled me out of the pit I have been in more times than I can count. So one more time, Lord. I will trust in your salvation. I will rejoice in your love. And I will sing because you have been good to me. Amen. This is how we know. This is how I know God is here. Because on the night in which Jesus gave himself up for us, he took bread, gave thanks. It's my body given for you. Take and eat. Took the cup, gave thanks. Gave his disciples and said, drink from this, all of you. This is my blood poured out for you and for many for the forgiveness of sins. Do this as often as you should drink of it in remembrance of me. What I love about this story in the Gospel of John is after they celebrate communion, John doesn't record the celebration of communion, but the disciples leave the upper room. You know what the next word is? They say, Jesus and the disciples go to Gethsemane, and it was dark. But God was with them. So when we leave here today, it may be dark in our lives. Hang on. There's hope. The Lord is with you, and God's been good. Let's pray the prayer that Jesus taught us to pray. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory forever. Amen. Pour out